Hey guys, Ben from BensGameTime here, and Cuphead is not a hard video game.
Now, before you rush off to the comments to tell me I'm wrong or that my opinion is invalid, let me be clear. I don't think Cuphead is a bad game. Released in late September of just last year and created by Studio MDHR, Cuphead has been praised massively for both its gameplay as well as its audio and visual design, and rightfully so. The entire game is designed to harken back to cartoons from the 1930s, and that includes the game's story. Basically, the whole game is centered around Cuphead and Mugman, two brothers that live on Inkwell Isle that ended up in the Devil's Casino, and after losing a game of dice, they now have to go and collect souls for the devil in exchange for their own. This is a classic cartoon setup. Heck, even the full name of this game is Cuphead Don't Deal with the Devil. You know, like how old cartoons would be titled Mickey Mouse in Insert Public Domain Story Here, or Bugs Bunny in a series of jokes at the expense of other people's pain and misery. This game is just downright beautiful. Everything in this game was hand-drawn, then digitally scanned and colored, but this is extremely impressive seeing how much movement and detail is in each frame. Nothing ever just stands still in this game. There is always movement and everything feels lively. At the start of each level, a narrator gives an opening line and a bit of text pops up on screen.
Good day for a swell battle. Here goes. A great slam and then some. Now go. This match will get red hot. You're up.
This is the only time in the game you hear narration besides an end of level to indicate that a boss was beaten. I like this decision since it allows for the game and its characters to speak for themselves, and that is what this game does well. The game also has fantastic music, each stylized to be what you would hear in old school cartoons. Songs take on different styles from jazzy, to the melodic, and to my personal favorite,
I'm Mr. King Dice. I'm the gamest in the land. I never play nice. I'm the devil's right-hand man. I can't let you pass, 'cause you ain't done everything. Bring me those contracts, come on, bring them to the king. If you haven't finished your class, haven't worked assiduously, no, I cannot let you pass. Don't you mess with me. Don't mess with King Dice.
Don't mess with King Dice.
Don't mess with me.
Don't mess with him.
Don't mess with King Dice.
Don't mess with King Dice.
Don't mess with me.
Overall, this game has great presentation, and it complements the gameplay well. Presentation alone wouldn't make Cuphead a good game, but luckily the game is extremely fun to play as well. The game has a basic control scheme: A to jump, B to use the super attack, Y to dash, X to shoot, and left bumper to change weapons. If you jump while in midair, you perform a parry, which can be used specifically on pink objects to block attacks, platform, or revive a co-op partner. When a parry is used on an attack, you gain one card, which can be used to perform an EX attack. Each EX attack uses just one card, unless you have 5 in a super attack equipped, which allows you to use said super attack. You can have 2 weapons equipped with a super attack, as well as a charm which gives passive abilities such as extra health at the cost of lower damage, turning your dash into a teleport, or having the super meter constantly fill up. Base health is set to 3. New weapons and charms can be bought at Porkrind's shop, while supers have to be earned. The biggest part of this game is the boss fights. Each world has multiple boss fights in them, where upon completion you get one of the soul contracts you need to collect for the devil. The bosses themselves are unique enough that you could see them appearing in their own cartoon episodes if Cuphead was a cartoon series. You have 2 boxing frogs, giant vegetables, a clown, Tom and Jerry knockoff, and...
Oh no, no, don't do this. Why?
Each boss fight contains multiple stages to them, and take the boss fights from 0 to 100 in no time flat. Take Caribbean Croaks here for example. Boss fight starts off against 2 frogs. Stage 2 you have 1 on each side, but then stage 3 they combine into a damn slot machine. Or how about Grim Matchstick the Dragon? First he attacks with eye beams and fireballs. Then he summons sentient fire creatures. Then he grows 2 extra heads and it starts to storm. Also, there are a few bosses that use a small airplane instead of the usual platforming style. These take on a more bullet hell-esque approach, and you are limited to 2 weapons and 1 super, but charms will carry over. These give a nice break from the usual boss fights, and are in my opinion more difficult than most normal bosses. If you happen to die during a boss fight, then you see a progress bar to show how close you were to beating the boss or getting to the next stage, which can be really encouraging at times. Beating all the boss fights is required to beat the game, but they are the best part of the game, so there's no problem with that. There are also several run and gun levels that help to break up the gameplay. These are traditional platforming stages with weaker enemies such as mushrooms, insects, and minor goats in higher quantity. These stages are completely optional, and their main function is to hold coins which can be used to purchase the different weapons and charms. While these levels provide a nice break from the boss fights, I wish there was something more. There are only 6 run and gun levels, and if you know what you're doing, they are over before you know it. I think these stages could have benefited from being longer, that or add more different kinds of levels in the game, such as minigames or races. There are also 3 mausoleum stages, which is where you can unlock the super attacks. These levels are unique in that the enemies, these pink ghosts, can't hurt you, but you can't hurt them unless you parry. To complete these challenges, you have to parry all the ghosts while making sure they don't touch the urn in the center of the stage. These levels are fun to play and can become frantic at times when you have to parry multiple ghosts in a single combo. Upon completing one of these stages, you will receive the corresponding super move provided by Oh No Not Again. The 3 super moves are a beam of energy that deals a great amount of damage, temporary invincibility, and summoning a ghost form that attacks enemies for you, but it's tied to your movement, so it can be tough to control at times. Now to bring up the elephant in the room, Cuphead's difficulty. As the game was being hyped up and discussed leading up to its release, a big selling point was the game's difficulty. The difficulty is supposed to be similar to old school NES games such as Contra or Mega Man, and it was a difficult game at first. On my first playthrough of Cuphead, I died many times, and the game was very challenging, but on subsequent playthroughs, the amount of deaths I had was much smaller. I believe the main reason for this comes from where the game bases its difficulty: pattern recognition. Each attack a boss will perform follows a specific pattern, and once you memorize the patterns for these attacks, they can be dodged fairly easily. Some bosses will contain bits of randomness to them, but even then they are limited to a small handful of simple patterns. Take the Candy Princess boss for example. The fight starts with a series of mini-bosses. You've got the Jawbreaker that acts like Pac-Man and will just follow you around, a candy corn that travels in figure 8s, this gumball machine that just runs back and forth, a waffle that flies around and breaks apart in 8 directions, and finally this cupcake that just jumps and splashes icing. 3 can appear in any order, but each has a very simple pattern that can be learned easily after some trial and error. Or take the dragon as another example. The first time I fought him, it took me a few hours and many deaths to beat him. But, after developing a strategy on how to beat him, I can now defeat him in a handful of attempts. Another issue that bogs down the game's difficulty is that a single weapon and equipment setup will work on most of the bosses. For the most part, I would use the pea shooter for long-range attacks and either the spread shot or the charge shot for a higher damage attack. As for equipment, I would exclusively use the smoke bomb, unless it was an airplane battle where I would use the card generator. And my super move would always be the beam attack, since it was my favorite to use. Very rarely would I deviate from this kind of setup. I never used the increased health or parry axe attack equipment, and the only time I used a different weapon was the homing shot for the final form of the Queen Bee fight. Finding a strategy that works along with learning the boss patterns takes away most of the game's difficulty. There is an expert difficulty that is unlocked after beating the game, but all it does is increase boss health and speed up the fights a bit. After you adjust to the speed change, you can beat the bosses in less attempts as your original run, and I feel adding in newer attacks could have helped to make expert mode harder for additional playthroughs.
That being said, even though it's not as difficult as people say it is, Cuphead is still an excellent game. It has an amazing presentation and atmosphere with great gameplay and fun boss fights. And even after everything I've mentioned, there's still plenty of replayability and side quests available. After completing a boss fight or a running gun level, there's a results screen that grades you on your performance. Criteria includes parries, not taking any damage, not using too many super attacks, and the time it took to beat the stage. Trying to perfect levels and bosses in order to get an A+ or even an S rank will add a good amount of time to the game. Cuphead also offers a few side quests that can be completed for cool extras. In World 2, there's a barbershop quartet missing a member. Find that member, and you get treated to a song.
It's nice to rest your eyes and maybe go outside. Grab a book and get some air. So what are you waiting for? Why not take a quick break? Tune the radio. There's chores to do, there's leaves to rake. Strum the old banjo. You can practice your Lindy Hop. And maybe later sing with your barbershop. Why not take a little quick break and come back for more? Or then come back for more. Or please come back for more.
There is also this turtle that will tell you that you can beat the running gun stages without killing anything. Doing this on a level will give you the special P rank, and doing this on every running gun level rewards you with a black and white filter. Small details like these are what make Cuphead special, and I really hope that the future DLC will up the ante on the game's difficulty. I give Cuphead 7 soul contracts out of 8. That's all for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.